I am proud of my country's heritage. We're living on freedom soil. Brave men have gone before me here, unafraid to pray and toil.
Hi, we want to talk briefly about elected representation. Representation we've gone through before was very important to the people of the United States of America, but it's elected representation. Ebla is a place, southern Turkey, maybe northern Syria, depending on what time of day it is, that was in antiquity a city-state. One of their schools for teaching scribes was crashed in, burned up. But so many of the tablets were saved, and they're referred to as the Ebla tablets. And they were saved in pretty good shape so they could be read. And a lot of these scribes were training, and so they were copying political, government, and business documents. These are all on clay tablets. Use a real long, pointy, narrow arrowhead type of scribe to push into the clay, and then putting several of them together in different shapes gives you the words and letters, so to speak. When they went through these and read them, they found that at least one point in Ebla's history, they had a government that was centralized, and they would assign representatives down to 10 families. Every 10 families had a representative who'd make sure they got their food and everything they needed, assigned by the government. In Cuba, after Fidel Castro took over, he was working with European socialists, and government they set up, they assigned people to be in charge of certain areas. A man would be in charge of a school, a man would be in charge of a business, and a man would be in charge of all of the schools, and another man would be in charge of all the businesses, this type of thing. What you have to understand is that is a form of representation, but it's not really, from a historic standpoint, not a good form. Elected representation, where the people choose their representatives, is probably shown itself to be a far better form of government. Not a perfect form of government, but a far better form of government. Many of the Indian tribes would elect among their chiefs, the chiefs were the ones who voted, the top chief for the tribe or the tribes together, and that election would take place to choose who they thought would be the best. Blue Jacket was chosen at one time in the 1700s this way. Again, you have representation. It's not a straight democracy, but you have someone that you've elected as your representative. Another form of government is a dictatorship. And the word dictator and tyrant have kind of lost their flavor. They've kind of become a negative thing. At the time when they first came around, they were a little more positive, just meant somebody who was an absolute ruler, and that was fairly common. I think it was Solomon was asked to decide whose baby who is the mother of this baby. I mean, that's the king. He's being asked to decide who's the mother of the baby. So you had people who ruled everything. And often they would break that down, have sub-rulers and judges and things like that. But the rule came from the top. The people were not having their own representatives. They were giving somebody that the government chose to represent them for the government, not the people. And that's why it's better the other way. One of the problems you get into is when judges start to make decisions on how things should be done or what should be done. And they'll say this judge decided this, and especially if it's an appointed judge. Judges are better with law. This is historic in almost all cases. And judges are better with juries in most cases. And you have problems. But when you have an appointed judge, and we know this from history, he has a tendency to support whoever's appointed him or her. Well, when judges start to make decisions rather than elected representatives, you tend towards a tyrannical dictatorship. And some people think that's a good idea. I believe if you'll look at history, you'll find that tyrannical dictatorships are good for the friends of the tyrannical dictator. Sometimes. The rest of the time and the rest of the people, no. The idea of elected representatives is a very good one in comparison to all other forms of government. And I suggest that those of you who have been thinking that going a different direction, having some type of dictatorship, and they don't call it that. I mean, socialism, the government's going to take over this, that, and run it and take care of it for you, and the government's going to take care of you. It ends up being a dictatorship. And however benevolent that may be, I believe you'll find that you're better off with elected representatives who make the laws, an executive who sees that the laws are enforced, and judges who judge the acts of men according to the law. This is historic, and these aren't my ideas. These are the ideas of the ratification letters written at the time that we started our government, and many other people. But these things historically have proven to be very good. So I think you should take a good hard look at that before you continue to move towards having judges make decisions on how we should do and what we should do, and or anyone else. These are things you should consider.
Yes, our God still bears his mighty arm when men to him are loyal.
Hi, my name's Rod McBain. Please, if you get time, go to our website. That's www.kerusso4God. KERUSSO, the number 4 and God.org. KerussoForGod.org. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps us. Google likes it, and it helps us move forward. And if you would, please take a look at the coffee cups and t-shirts. Buy some of those. We'll try to keep them useful. And that helps us with the utilities and the groceries. Please take a look at our sponsors, see what they're up to. And I thank you for listening to what we're presenting. And if you have comments, please add them below.